fight to hold our heads up high and beat the drum to what we love. Risk the fall, or we have felt it all come crashing down from far above. The stars are rising, countless worlds colliding, only one will take it all. Can we bring to fall the giants? Can we make the final call? We are the ones to ignite the darkened skies, and the champions of the world that we defy. Our sovereign of the few who rise up high, and we all fight at the last light. Hearing voices from afar, join the madness when the curtain falls. Risk it all, hold nothing back. Seize the day we must take. Stars are rising, countless worlds colliding, only one will take it all. Can we bring to fall the giants? Can we make a final call? We are the ones to ignite the darkened skies, and the champions of the world that we defy. Our sovereign of the few who rise up high, and we all fight at the last light. Can we bring to fall the giants? 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 We are the ones to ignite the darkened skies, and the champions of the world that we defy. Our sovereign of the few who rise up high, and we all fight at the last light. Thank you.
How amazing was that? Big round of applause for Nikki. Come on, that was incredible. Oh, wow, 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 wow. Oh, my goodness. I mean, obviously, that was a huge, epic throwback to the last time Riot hosted Worlds here in Europe. I'm not sure, but they might even have one or two semi-finalists somewhere from that tournament in the room tonight, I believe. Do you believe? Hidden amongst you. So I'm Julia Hardy, and I'm going to be your host for tonight's show. So welcome to all the League players who've joined us here at the XL in London for a whole day of gaming and celebration. And of course, greetings to the rest of our viewers from around the globe watching at home. So I do hope you guys are enjoying League 10 celebration so far. How about you guys? You've enjoyed it so far? Yes. How can they say no? This place looks amazing. League of Legends would not be going strong today without the support and constant feedback of the community. So Riot asked me to kick things off with a huge thank you, like a massive, 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 massive thank you for helping build this game into what it is today. Now, if you had the chance to watch the special 10-year Riot Please that aired last night, you'll know it packed in a huge lot of info. I mean, including a glimpse of obviously some of the new games that are in development. And so, since we have some of League's most die-hard fans in the audience tonight, We thought it would be the perfect opportunity to invite some Riot developers along to give you some extra insight into everything that the future holds. But before we dive into that, let's take a quick look back at some of the highlights from today's celebrations. Welcome to the League of Legends 10-year anniversary party, European celebration. Are you excited to be here?
I cannot think of a better place than Europe to celebrate the League of Legends 10 years anniversary. We've invited you all here today in London because we wanted to thank you in person.
I think this 2019 event probably was, in 5 words, I think it was amazing.
I got the highest score ever on League of Legends, level 2000.
I think the event's really cool. I'm pretty surprised by how big it is. It's fantastic.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Riot Roviant. What are we doing? We're doing the fist bump. Okay, let's do it. Oh my goodness. Right. We had many discussions about what the greeting was going to be. I didn't throw you under the bus, but I did make it awkward by bringing it up right
Cheers, thank you for that.
It's all right. So I'm joined by Daniel Riot Roviant, leaver from the League team. So welcome home, first of all. And
thank you.
Before we kind of jump into all of the exciting changes coming next month, maybe it's good to kind of just kick off by sort of explaining what you do on the team.
Of course. I'm a game designer on the Summoner's Rift team. The Summoner's Rift team handle everything you'd imagine appears on Summoner's Rift, such as champion balance, items, runes, that kind of stuff. But we also do seasonal content as well, like pre-season, mid-season, and that's generally where I spend most of my time. And the last few months, I've been working on getting Rise of the Elements over the finishing line.
I bet you're excited.
Very excited.
Exactly. So obviously when Summoner's Rift had its big visual update in 2014, a lot of people and a lot of the comments at that time were kind of like, oh, it's like League of Legends too. But obviously, you know, some of the changes that are coming in this pre-season feel even more dramatic than that, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I could say that. I mean, I was pretty
Bit of an understatement.
Well, you know, the visual update was extremely exciting for me at the time. I remember actually hacking the game so I could play early. I shouldn't say that, but that's how passionate I was at the time. Yeah, but for this pre-season, we didn't want to work on small fixes to Summoner's Rift. We wanted to work on like big surprises. It felt like an important time to really mix things up. So we focused on variety and mastery that you get from the existing champion pool, but putting that into Summoner's Rift itself. We want to keep the game feeling fresh for the next 10 years. Can I just give a quick overview of all the things? I'm sure people have seen this stream, but...
All right, then, go on.
Thank you very much. So first of all, elemental terrain is probably like our tentpole feature. That happens by killing the second dragon on Summoner's Rift will transform the map into the element of the third dragon. If it's infernal, there'll be some destruction. If it's ocean, some growth. You get the idea. We have Dragon Souls, and Dragon Souls is a late game objective that players can build up to by slaughtering 4 of any elemental dragon. It feels really good to have one of those. And finally, I want to talk about the Elder Dragon buff. And what we've done with that is we've taken some of the hidden, obscure, but very big power from that buff, which was like a true damage over time
Yeah.
dot, and we put it into a visceral and very understandable execute mechanic, which I'm very excited to see people use.
So much to go through. There's so much to go through. You have no idea. So I think we should maybe go back to kind of like the start of the project. When did you first start working on Rise of the Elements?
We started working on it in November last year, so it's been nearly a year now actually working on it, which is a very long time for Riot to work on a pre-season, for example. So right from the very beginning, we knew we wanted to do some form of map evolution or map changes, and we wanted player interaction to feed into it rather than just like a timer or something similar. So that's what we've ended up with. One of the things we realized early on, though, was that it wasn't cool to have team that takes dragon gets a bonus or benefit from the terrain.
Yeah.
Because it felt like not only were you against a strong team,
Doubly bad, basically.
yeah, you're being attacked by the environment around you, which felt really oppressive. And actually we realized that dragons themselves provided the variance that we needed. There are 4 different elements, so there's a nice bit of seeding from there. And in addition, when players kill the dragons is really important. So the terrain only changes when a team has killed the dragon, and it's like, oh, now you've killed the dragon, now it's all changing. It's really good.
I mean, obviously, there's a whole bunch of different ideas going around. I mean, you must have had a huge amount of playtesting to get this right before getting to this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. We playtest on the Summoner's Rift team twice a day.
Every day?
Every day.
Without fail. Morning coffee, boom, on it.
That is exactly what happens. Morning coffee, otherwise I'll feed. We playtest at 10 in the morning and then 5 at night, which gives us plenty of time to work on feedback or gather all that feedback together and make changes before the next playtest. It's actually quite important to understand that we rarely get something right the first time. In fact, I don't think it ever happens.
That's true of anything in life.
That's right. So it's really important to get it straight in the game as quickly as possible, and then just gather the feedback about what's working, what isn't, and then iterate. I'm pretty sure the Elder Dragon mechanic, actually, the execute, we had an idea within one brainstorm meeting, and then we got it into the game. And this is Twitch killing Lulu. I'm sure that wasn't staged. And then once it was in the game, we could actually gather feedback and see what the values needed to be, what the timing felt, what felt good, what could you hourglass, what could you avoid, that kind of thing. So it's more like an iteration process.
Yeah, and obviously, it's all very well spending hours and hours, doing things on paper, but it's all about the gameplay fundamentally at the end of the day. So forget that. Right. So obviously, there must have been some kind of perhaps crazier ideas that didn't make the final cut. What are kind of some of the stranger ones?
Yeah, we making this thing for a year. We made a lot of things.
Please tell me everything.
Okay, some of the craziest stuff was we started off with more localized areas that if you stand in, you got a huge damage boost, like 25%.
Okay.
And
Sounds reasonable.
The whole point was, the trade-off was that if you were stood inside a small zone, you were quite an easy target for skill shots or Malphite ults or something. The problem was that it didn't work that way. Bran just walks in, ults, and then leaves. Karthus walks in, ults, and leaves. You get the idea. People were just abusing it, and it wasn't great. So we cut that. We had an idea where the river would actually track how much damage and carnage was being done, how many people had died, how much damage was dealt, and then turn red with blood.
Lovely.
The idea being that blood fruit would spawn and it'd be some kind of buff, but that didn't work out. And one of the great ideas, I'm very sad didn't work out, was the idea that if you destroyed a tower, it would fall in the direction you last hit it from and create impassable rocky rubble. That was a great idea, except for the fact that minions exist in League and they all bunch up around the ruins and you can't get through and you die.
So maybe no. That's a solid hard pass on that one.
Yeah.
Obviously, the League team were playtesting it, but did you kind of chuck it outside the League team for that?
Yeah, absolutely. We do what's called player labs.
Please tell me they had white coats.
They don't have white coats. I think we have white coats for the player labs.
Well, as long as someone's in white coats.
Someone, I'm sure, is in a white coat. We get players in groups of 10 or 20, and over the course of 2 days, they'll play as much League as they possibly can, and then we gather all the data about what they liked, what they didn't like, what they hate, and thankfully, anything they didn't like or hate is not in pre-season now, so it's quite useful to be able to see the wood for the trees. We also are able to get some pros in for what we call pro labs.
They better have gold jackets.
No, I actually don't know what colour jackets they have. Okay, this is Aframu playing some of our content actually for the Pro Labs. And we were really concerned about pros because this is like the big test of a patch, really. the people who play the game for money and have careers based upon it, are they going to be sensitive to the change? But actually, it was overwhelmingly positive, which is amazing. So I feel like pros genuinely are gamers first and then pros second. They were quite excited.
Because you think that, you know, if you'd spent all of those hours and it's your livelihood, you'd be like, no, leave it.
I just think they just love the game.
Well, that's good. So anyway, so out of all the elemental riffs, which one would you say is your top one? Which is your fave?
Can I cheat and choose 2?
All right.
If you said no, I was still going to do it.
I know, but I was trolling him
I know,
yesterday
thanks a
by
lot.
saying no the whole time.
As far as the dragon pit is concerned, I think mountain is my favorite. We actually create like a block in front of the dragon pit, creating 2 entryways to the dragon area. This means that if a player's team is trying to sneak a dragon inside the pit, they're actually blocked from scuttle crab and other more like usual vision. However, if the enemy team discovers them in there, they're like ripe for a wombo combo, like collapse in that small space with Anivia, all that kind of stuff. It's really good. And as far as the jungle camps themselves, because we only do our changes around the jungle camp areas, a blue and red buff, I think that's infernal for me, because any of the team fights or skirmishes we have around these areas just feel so much more fresh, alive, and dynamic. Like immobile ADCs like Jinx can walk through gaps that they would have been trapped in before and lay down some traps behind her. It just feels really fresh.
Obviously, you know, you've made some huge changes, and with that must have brought some quite big kind of technical difficulties at the same time. Are there any of those that really sort of stood out in the process?
Yeah, obviously when you first approach the idea of taking this meticulously arted and designed map and saying we're going to cut chunks out of it, we're going to just rip through these walls, we're going to completely throw away some of this artwork, you do raise some eyebrows, but luckily everyone was very supportive at Riot, and they were like, yeah, go for it, try it out. However, prototyping wasn't as smooth as you'd imagine it can be. We didn't have any map editing tools, so we had to sort of hack special ways of squashing the terrain down, flattening it like a pancake, which was great. You could walk across it, but then you have these flat pancake trees, and it was really surreal. It was very hard to understand where you couldn't go. In addition, there's the fact that we haven't got environment artists for League most of the time, because why would you need them? You don't make any environments. They were on other projects. So we had to hire in some brand new artists, get them trained up, and they're doing a fantastic job.
What's the job for? Oh, let me just tell you what the job's for. What?
No, seriously, the environment artists are doing an amazing job, so good on them.
Yeah.
In addition, we had to lock down the layout of the map fairly early. So no more than 3 months ago, we had to say, this is actually the layout now, we're set, we're done. Because if you start shifting that stuff around when artists are working on it, they get quite upset. You can imagine if they spent 2 days, 3 days working on a piece of terrain, and you're like, gonna cut that, I'm afraid. They'd be like, oh, thank you very much, that's very nice. Finally, the stuff we're working on at the moment is the sort of more dull part for most people. I loved it, which is like memory concerns. Does it all run on the lower end machines? Is the frame rate good? That kind of stuff I actually really love doing, but most people hate that.
So even outside, obviously, the elemental rifts, you tweak the architecture of the side lanes as well. So they've got some little alcoves going on there. I mean, besides offering a perfect make-out spot for Zyra and Rakan, you know, obviously, what else is their function?
The alcoves are actually there to add deeper outplay potential in the side lanes. It's actually really important that we state that we don't expect them to be used every game. I'm quite happy if players don't go into them at all in a game. But they're there if you need them, and you'll find instances when you need them, and like when you're pushed up towards a tower, getting some greedy tower plates, and then like the enemy Lee Sin flanks around behind you, and you're just one kick from being put into their tower. You can duck into the alcove, break line of sight, buy yourself a few seconds of where are they? They're not sure whether you're going up the left or right. Maybe they missed their skill shots, and maybe you can just turn that 3v2 into a double kill. It happens, and it's really cool to see. Other things we expect to see people do is pretend to back to base, and then duck into the alcove once the minions have cleared out, and then gank the enemy bot lane as they push up, sort of circle around behind them, which is quite nice. But my absolute favorite example of what you can do is with Bard, one of our more unusual supports. He can create like a magical journey portal. This is some of our old artwork here, look.
Yeah.
He can actually escape the alcove back to the safety of his tower with a magical journey. Or if you're feeling really brave, go the opposite way into the enemy tower. but I don't advise that, so don't do that.
Drastic. Okay. Oh, well, thank you so much for diving into
No
the
worries.
upcoming preseason changes with us. And I don't know whether we actually have any We do have some player questions, actually, if you're happy to stay in the hot seat just for a moment longer.
Yep.
So we're going in blind on these. So here we
That's
go.
scary.
It's a little bit scary. Okay, so are the changes coming with the Rise of Elements going to put a much bigger emphasis on junglers and reinforce the meme, better jungler wins?
I don't believe so. I mean, ultimately, the jungler shouldn't be. It shouldn't be their. I actually jungle mains. This is quite a sensitive one for me.
Okay.
It shouldn't be the jungler's responsibility to take those dragons on their own. They should be supported by their team. It's a team game, and ultimately, nobody sneaks 4 dragons unless the team happens to be helping with warding or helping with pinging when people are missing. It ultimately should be a team effort to try and gain those 4 dragons in a row to get the dragon soul. As far as the elder dragon is concerned, or Baron buff, for example, trying to steal those, again, you should be preparing and not trying to go for the coin toss where you just flame the jungler when they miss smite. It's really hard. It's really hard to do. So, yeah.
So what are your expectations in how those changes are going to impact the pace of the game?
We actually don't expect the games to be any longer or any shorter.
Okay.
We think that, from what we've playtested internally, they feel about the same as on the live servers that players play on now. Again, we're going to just look at the data once we've gone live in pre-season, which is like a month away, I think. I'm not exactly sure. We're going to look at the data, and we're going to just make changes and react to things as they come up. We're not going to try and plan out a meta or anything like that. It's not what we do.
Okay, so next question is about the execute buff on Elder Drake. Lots of players are scared that we're adding even more execute power to people and that it might feel unfair. Time to kill in the game sometimes already feels very low. Are we making this even worse?
No, actually, I'm really pleased you've asked this.
Well, it wasn't me.
Not you. I'm really pleased you asked this.
Thanks.
Because the Elder Dragon on live has a lot of power in it. If a team has 4 dragons, elemental dragons, and then takes the Elder, those dragon buffs are multiplied. They get tons of true damage burn. It just isn't very appreciable. It doesn't feel strong, but it's extremely strong. You basically shouldn't fight an enemy team who has the Elder Dragon. You should just try and wait it out and try and minimize your losses. All we've done with the execute mechanic is take that hidden power and put it into something more understandable, more feelable, and more visceral. Everyone is aware of their health bar. A little notch goes in their health bar to say, like, you're in danger of being executed here, so break off. And players, again, you shouldn't be fighting the people with the Elder buff, right? But if you are, then at least you know where your limits are.
Okay. Right, next question is, what happens if you have a tie in the number of elemental drakes after slaying your 4th, such as sort of like 1-1-1-1 or 2-2? Like, which soul do you get?
This helps us clear up something we didn't put in our blog post.
Okay.
Thank you for this. This is good. This is a nice
These are good
segue.
questions. These are better than the
good
other
questions.
ones.
If once the 3rd dragon has been revealed, say it's infernal, it can only be infernal the rest of the game, and that is also the dragon that the soul belongs to. So if it's going to be infernal terrain, it's also going to be the infernal soul. There's not like which have you got more of or anything like that.
Right.
And importantly, the first 2 dragons cannot be the same as the 3rd one, and they cannot be the same as each other. So to break it down for you, it goes, maybe it's cloud, mountain, ocean, 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 ocean. Or maybe it's ocean, infernal, cloud, cloud, cloud. That's how it works. So you'll never get like 3 at the start, which are all infernal, or 3 mountains.
Okay, that's good.
Did that answer the question? I think it went off on one, and I hope it answered the question.
So final question is, do the drakes only affect the map where it's showed in the picture, or is it map-wide?
Great question. These are great. So we try to make sure that this felt as intuitive as possible when the map changes. So in order to do that, we changed the same 5 areas with each dragon, the dragon pit, and the red and blue buff on both sides. Keeping it consistent in where it changes allows us to change them more significantly, because you're like, well, I don't know what cloud is, but I know where it's going to be because I've played ocean. And, that's where all the gameplay sits. Aside from that, we will have environmental ambience mood changes, so like rain for the ocean dragon, little flowers sprout up in the bushes, the braziers that you see on the braziers, the flamey things you see on Summoner's Rift are swapped out for the elements. You get like a water feature for ocean, things that remind you of what element you're in, even if you're just focusing on CSing in a lane.
Okay. Well, there were a bunch more questions, but actually we need to kind of get through everything. So
Those ones are difficult. I'm glad we skipped those.
Really?
Yeah.
Were you?
I just didn't want to answer those ones.
Oh, is that what happened?
That's what happened.
Okay, well, that's all the time we have for. Do you have any closing thoughts, Daniel?
Yeah, we're really excited to get this year's pre-season out to you guys. There's a dev blog with details of all the changes on there, so please check out on the website, and we'll see you all in November when the changes go live. Also,
yes.
Hello to my wife, Lindsay, and my dog, Nami.
Oh, you sneaky so-and-so. Look at you sneaking that in at the end
I know,
there.
it's not on the teleprompter.
It's not. It does get a bit Ron Burgundy if you're not careful. Anyway, so we're really, really looking forward to everything, and thank you so much for chatting to us, Dan. I hope that kind of cleared a lot of things up for you guys. But we do need to keep it moving. We've got an awful lot to get through, but before we bring our next guest on, let's have a short video just to set the stage. Everyone, please show some love for Feral Pony, the design lead for League of Legends Wild Rift. What do we do? I don't know. That's weird. Okay, all right. This is going to be like an awful thing all the way through now. So thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Hi. So obviously by now you guys know that League is coming to both mobile and console in the form of League of Legends Wild Rift. So I'm joined now by Brian Feeney, the design lead for League of Legends Wild Rift. It would be weird if it was something else. To talk about what it took to rebuild League from the ground up for new platforms. So do you want to just introduce yourself and say a little bit about what you do, Riot?
Oh, sure. So I'm the design lead on League of Legends Wild Rift. Obviously, it was just announced this morning, very, very early. Basically, that means I'm sort of responsible for, obviously, like, I lead all the other designers and basically responsible for sort of the quality of the gameplay and sort of how it plays out and
So we
all
come
that
to
fun
you
stuff.
if we're not happy?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. You can just ping me directly.
Don't. Well, no, actually you do. So obviously you're bringing League to mobile and console, but it's not a direct kind of one-to-one port. I mean, what was it like? Because you had to kind of go back and sort of rebuild it from the ground up, basically.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's entirely built from scratch, right? We knew a one-to-one port wasn't really going to work, and so we knew we had to sort of build it from the ground up to meet sort of both the quality and sort of the visual fidelity and really get sort of like the authenticity and awesomeness that players expect from a League of Legends game. And really what we sort of heard over the years was that there are players who love League, and like we're trying to build this game for them first and foremost, but in a lot of cases it didn't really meet either their lifestyle was changing and have as much time as they used to, or even just like you had a really long day at work and you just want to like flop yourself on the couch, right? Pick up a controller as opposed to sort of sit up in your standard workstation.
It's really hard with a mouse and keyboard. You knock over your tea.
Right, and you can't play upside down either. Like that's really half the fun. Yeah. And you know, also just like the fact that hey, you're hanging out with some friends at a restaurant or at a party, right? And it's fantastic to sort of have a literal LAN party in your pocket.
Sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Let's move on to something rather specific and very close to everyone's heart, which is champions, of course. So,
Yeah.
I mean, what was it like bringing people's mains over to Wild Rift? I mean, That's a medium to large scale degree of pressure, I feel.
Oh, yes, yeah. I mean, League of Legends really is about the champions, first and foremost. I spent a few years on League working on champion designs, and I mean, we know how much champions mean to people, and like how critical it is that we really get these right and really just nail the authenticity here. So we just want to make sure that these really feel like their champion counterparts. Like if you're a main of a champion and pick it up, we want to make sure that you still feel like you're playing the same champion. There will be some differences, but we want to hit that feel.
And sort of what are some of the ways that you did that? I mean, was it kind of difficult to streamline some of the champions' abilities for mobile and console? Because I mean, obviously you had to kind of little bit, right?
A little bit. We actually didn't compromise too much, I don't think. But I think part of the core of this is like, streamline's the word I wouldn't use here, because that sort of means like you're simplifying or kind of like trimming down abilities.
All right.
Really what we're doing is just making sure that we move them into the control scheme or the game pace or kind of changes, but we're still trying to deliver that really awesome, authentic League of Legends gameplay. So a few of the examples here. Example is Misfortune, right? The kit's basically the same, but her double up skill on PC is a targeted spell, whereas on our game, it's a directional skill shot. Now, this is a change we do all the time on PC. We've done it, I don't know, at least a dozen times since that I can remember. But basically, there's just a lot of other gameplay that we get out of it. And so it's not necessarily like we're making compromises here. It's that we actually get a thing that's better for the control scheme and better for overall gameplay. This allows her to do stuff like check brush, trying to hit a stealth champion that's sneaking around, or you can even do stuff where like a champion's kind of running at you, and you can fire the skill shot preemptively before they're in range to kind of squeak out some additional time and help you escape where you wouldn't be otherwise able to.
Okay.
There's another example, which is probably a little bit more extreme than that, which would be Vayne. We tried the same sort of skill shot approach on Vayne's Condemn, and there was a lot of problems and actually didn't work out. So we're not doing this like all over the place, but in some cases we will. But a different example there is we're trying to stay away from sort of what we call dead buttons. It causes a lot of problems on controller and touchscreen both. So like Vayne has a true passive. It's just a button that doesn't do anything when you hit it. And we actually added an active to Vayne's. So you still get the same silver bolts. It's a 3-hit that does a bunch of damage, and you can murder tanks and all that kind of fun stuff. But now when you hit Vayne's W, or her silver bolts, you actually get 3 attacks of small attack speed boost.
Okay.
And any silver bolts that you trigger actually vamp and steal a chunk of health from that you deal. And we think this can add a lot of additional gameplay and some cool outplay moments on Vayne. She's already a really high skill fantasy champion, but we think this can really kind of over-deliver there. For Vayne mains out there who may already be jumping down this line of thought, there's some kind of shenanigans you can do where you kind of pre-stack, you get 2 stacks of silver bolts on, and then activate your W, get the vamp, get another attack, use your Condemn to get a 3rd stack, and then sort of cheat and get 2 vamp. 2 heals off the same ability. If you don't play Vayne or don't play a lot of League, that may have sounded like complete rubbish and total nonsense, but I assure you it's pretty sick.
I mean, which was some of the trickier ones to get right?
Oh, I think probably the hardest one, probably by a good margin, was actually Yasuo.
Really? How come?
So, I mean, he's one of those champions that has sort of very high sort of actions that you're playing. But you can see even on the screen here, like the dashing mechanics, you have to sort of dash precisely in like 5 different times within like a 2 to 3 second window. It's just really hard to have both the responsiveness and the precision that you need. And so we spent weeks and weeks and weeks, if not months, sort of iterating and spinning on this to get it to feel like there's no changes at all.
I suppose it's like anything. It's like CG, right? If you notice it, then it's so much of your time and effort means that people don't notice that you've done stuff.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of this project is like doing an astronomical amount of work to feel like you've done no work.
That feels a bit sad in a sort of weird way, but I mean, what can we expect in terms of the numbers of champs?
So if you were able to play earlier today, if you're at any one of the events here that are celebrating L10, we had 25 champions in today's build. We currently have about 40 champions good to go. So when we sort of go wider, obviously that's sort of a fun throwback to League of Legends having 40 champions on launch. That wasn't really the intent, that's just kind of how it shook out, and obviously we'll be adding more as we go.
I mean, I suppose as long as Yasuo is there, that's all anyone really needs to know, right? Right, that's fine.
One thing I will call out on the champions, though, is that we are not targeting exactly the same number of champions that we have on PC and Wild Rift.
Okay.
So obviously, there's a whole bunch of reasons for that. Some champions don't translate particularly well. There's a whole bunch of other reasons. But we are going to try to be adding more stuff in the future.
Of course. course. And we all know what the champions will be like, but what about the gameplay on Wild Rift? Like, what can we expect in terms of sort of like, well, the map, for example?
So the map has sort of been, again, sort of rebuilt, redesigned. Will look and feel very similar, hopefully, but a lot of work, again, going into making it feel very similar. But the biggest thing here is really it's like the game pacing, right? We're trying to deliver a real League of Legends feeling from sort of start to finish, like laning phase, mid-game, et cetera, all that kind of fun stuff, within a 15 to 20-minute time window.
Okay.
So, and part of that is we actually shrunk the map a lot to kind of make this happen, get players closer together, a lot more skirmishing, a lot more fighting. And in this, obviously we shrunk the bases more than we shrunk the rest of the map, because that's where most of the combat space is, and we want to keep as much of that intact as possible. So if you kind of look at the screen there, like we don't actually have any, there's no inhibitors, there's no Nexus turrets, all that kind of stuff kind of got compressed inwards. If you take out an inhibitor turret, it's just the same as you took out the inhibitor turret and the inhibitor, and the Nexus itself will shoot laser beams. So don't be too shocked when you walk in there and try to backdoor an undefended Nexus and it just murders the hell out of you.
Oh, amazing. What's it like to lane in Wild Rift?
So, I mean, laning should, again, feel very similar, just it's a lot faster. I mean, you still have your same kind of like beginning, like laning phase, mid-game, end-game, all that kind of usual stuff. But additionally, you will also have your same usual suspects, right? You'll have your top laners, you'll have your mid laners, you'll have your bot laners, etc. You'll even have like your Teemos, right? Like all the usual laning types that you would expect in the League of Legends game.
And how also like how did the cameras work as well?
Yeah. So the big change on the camera is actually for Team 2 specifically, or Red Team, whichever way you want to frame it. The big thing here is the camera is always flipped, right? Because you can kind of see the way the buttons are laid on the HUD is kind of displayed. It's really important that most of the combat space is going up and to the right.
Yeah.
And all good graphs also go up and to the right, but it's also true for combat space. And in this scenario, basically, what will end up happening is your Dragon and Baron lane, if you're on Team 2, will actually be flipped because the map is mirrored. So that can take a little bit of getting used to if you have a lot of muscle memory and a lot of sort of expectations of like, hey, I'm a top laner, right? It's like really reframe it and think you're a Baron lane player or a Dragon lane player, and then adjust accordingly.
Okay, and I suppose we should talk about runes. I mean, do we still have them in Wild Rift?
Yeah, we do. This is one that I would say a system that is streamlined a bit, even though I said not to use that word earlier, but I would definitely use it in this case. We have a lot of the same usual suspects here for keystones. We think that's where sort of the majority of the gameplay was, so we wanted to sort of keep that. And the rest of it we kind of trimmed down to a number of minor choices to try and capture and kind of augment and support playstyles. These will look fairly similar to the minor runes on PC. But the main difference here is you'll see there's not a tree structure per se, it's just kind of you pick one from each row. And the main reason for this is, we think we can capture the most of it, but we really want you to be in the game as fast as possible and not sort of fiddling around in champion select and kind of undoing a bunch of decisions and micromanaging your build in that way.
And I suppose I have to kind of ask about the items as well. Can players still build all the swords and like all the boots and stuff that they love?
Pretty much, yeah. There'll be a lot of the same usual stuff as before, like your Trinity Forces, your Blade of the Ruined Kings, all that kind of fun stuff will be there. We also have a few new fun items. I think that will be kind of exciting to try out here. But the single biggest change is active items. Okay. So on PC, you can buy 6 or 7 active items if you count your trinkets as well. But the main difference here is that you can't add 7 buttons to a controller just randomly. And so we really want to make sure that active items are super, super critical to like that really authentic gameplay and that really cool kind of feel how you augment and adjust your character. So what we ended up doing was we said, hey, we're going to give you 1 active, and we already have 1 boot slot, so let's just combine the 2. So by the time you basically will build and you'll upgrade your boots to sort of tier 2 boots, then you can actually upgrade them into add any active that you want, right? Whether those are like Hourglasses or QSS or Protobelt. If you want to run Protobelt Garen, go for it. It's a lot of fun. And you're just buying the active. There's no stats associated with it, so it kind of opens up the meta a lot and gives you a lot more freedom of kind of what to pick.
That's true. And obviously, so we talked about kind of running down enemies and destroying them. I think we should probably talk about how pretty it looks. It looks like it's a bit of a new lick of paint.
I mean, it is definitely a new lick of paint, that's sort of on top of basically rebuilt everything, right? So, again, this is sort of not a direct one-to-one port. We rebuilt everything from the ground up. We're really focusing here on device performance, compatibility, all these kind of things, and that really made us kind of start from scratch there. Additionally, we're also, while we're doing this, we thought, hey, why not update some of our older designs? So you'll see some champions, such as like Earth skins, like Angle or Jax, which is it was a skin that was totally fun and great in 2010, 2011, whenever we shipped it. But we thought that it could really use kind of an update and sort of a brand new kind of, you can see it here, it's pretty sick, but it's capturing a lot of the same feel. Poor Fizz. I like that little guy. But this is sort of an example. We have a few of older skins like this that we kind of just decided to, hey, while we're at it, we're building it anyways, let's just update it.
I mean, why not? You might as well just go the whole hog. I want to know a little bit what about the turntable that we saw in the video? Kind of what's that all about? The kind of new virtual wardrobe.
Yeah, so turntable was actually one of our, I think it was sort of a little surprise of a feature, right? We sort of started building it, and we're like, this is actually really, really cool. So we kind of went all in on it. But obviously, when players are used to League of Legends, mostly what they're sort of used to is you kind of realize what the champion looks like and should feel like in sort of in the splash art or like animated splash. And we're totally keeping those, right? We're going to have splashes, we're going to have animated splashes. They look sweet. But we also thought this would be a great opportunity to kind of give players the ability to sort of see their champion in sort of high-res, full 3D, and really kind of figure like, hey, who am I playing? Like, what is this character about? And we think we can really capture these in some of these really cool little animations that really kind of, deliver who the champion really is.
Oh, it looks amazing.
It's very pretty. I love Poros too.
We're just going to watch it for a whole stream. Just keep watching. Oh, amazing. So what can we expect from Wild Rift in the future and obviously in the lead up to its release? Any kind of little surprises maybe you can share with us now?
I mean, maybe something comes out in the Q&A later, but I mean, right now there's like obviously a ton more that we want to show. We'll be communicating a lot more as we sort of move forward on the game in the coming months. Obviously, if you were on site early, hopefully you got a chance to play. If not, you can jump in right now to the, if you're on an Android, Google Play has pre-registration up right now. Okay. Obviously, other platforms will have that available in the future. Other than that, please, the feedback and the reception so far has been really welcoming and overwhelming. And so, yeah, please keep coming. If you have thoughts, feedback, questions, etc., please send them over. You can use boards, tweet me, whichever. But again, this has just been so awesome. So thank you guys so much for all the support you put into League of Legends. We wouldn't be here without you, and this has been amazing.
Yes, definitely. It must be so nice after, especially having to keep everything quiet. I don't know how they keep everything quiet for so long.
I mean, I was in a dungeon for 3 years on this project. I'm
really
so glad
difficult.
to be out. Yeah.
You're like daylight, hurrah! Yeah. I believe we do actually have some questions. Okay, let's start at the beginning. So, question number 1 is: can we link our accounts to get the champions and skins that we have?
So you will be able to link your accounts, but we're not going to do sort of one-to-one inventory sharing. And there's a few reasons for this. The biggest one is basically that we're not going to have content parity, right? We're not going to have every skin. We're not going to have every champion. Yeah. And so we want to make sure that we're being equitable and fair to the players that have invested. And so what this means basically, hey, if right now, like I'm in a Bard main on PC, but Bard's not in Wild Rift, right? And if I put all my money into Bard and I would get nothing, that would feel really bad. Whereas if I played a champion that was in our launch roster. But that being said, we will make champions pretty accessible. You'll get a lot of champions to sort of level up, and we'll also, when you do the account linking, we will also give you rewards based off of your investment, so you can jump into Wild Rift with like a really big head start.
Okay, cool. So also, question number 2 is: will you be able to play the game through emulators, mouse and keyboard? And if so, how do you keep it fair?
So this is a really good question, right? Especially when you look into multiple platforms, like how do you keep kind of competitive fairness and competitive integrity? And so obviously we're not going to there's no current plans to basically build a PC client for Wild Rift. There's a lot of fantastic emulation software already out there that pretty much works on all the devices. So if you really want to play Wild Rift on your computer, you can totally do that. I would also say we also have League of Legends on your computer, which is also really good. So you can play that one too.
It's quite good.
In terms of like the sort of competitive fairness, I mean, this game was built from the ground up for twin stick. And like all the skills sort of supported, all the tuning, all that kind of stuff. So I actually don't think right now that keyboard and mouse will give you very much of a competitive advantage. You're usually kind of trading sort of fidelity and the ability to you're getting a little bit potentially of like aiming your skill set slightly better, but you're losing a lot of like movement fidelity. As an example, because like a joystick is just a lot easier to move around and sort of carefully precising than sort of trying to right-click.
Yeah. And then the third and final question, which is probably the most direct: Yuumi and Wild Rift when?
So, I mean, we got Garen, so I mean, it's like half the combo right there. But I mean, right now, there's a lot of characters we've already announced. We're going to try to shoot for about 40 when we start going wider to players, but we're not ready to announce what champions in particular we have.
I feel like that's... Are you giving things away with your face right now?
Am I?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I like to read into things a bit too much, perhaps, when I interview people and then make everyone really awkward. So, well, thank you so much. But you guys, we've got one last game spotlight for you, which is the Legends of Runneterra, and we're going to have two of the developers who are here tonight. But let's check out a trailer for the game before we dig into the story. But can we have a big round of applause for Brian, please, for joining us on stage?
Thank you.
In this strategy card game, it's creativity and cleverness that determine your success. Victory comes down to one simple question. What's your move? This is Legends of Runneterra. And these are the champions. Champions enter battle are some of the most powerful cards in the game,
I'll lead us to victory!
and each champ has a unique mechanic to become even stronger. But to reach their full potential, you'll have to play smart and look for the right opportunity to level them up. But if you can pull it off, the transformation is game-changing. Gain new abilities to crush your enemies. Turn the tide of battle with a swift combo.
They will no match.
Even break the rules and claim a new way to win. Every champion comes from a region of Runneterra, where allies of all kinds can join them in the fight. If you need soldiers to reinforce your army, Demacia stands ready. When your plan calls for striking hard and fast, the warriors of Noxus are legion. And for survivors that will outlast everything else, look no further than the Freljord. Each region plays differently and offers their own set of strategic advantages. Savvy players will combine cards from more than one to wield the strengths of both. Seek out Ionia to bring agility and flexibility to your fights. Add Piltover and Zorn to assemble a plan piece by piece. Or summon the Shadow Isles to unleash ruin upon your fragile, mortal foes. The paths to victory are many. Get creative, because how you build your deck is completely up to you. But it's not just what you play, it's how you play it. At its core, Legends of Runneterra is all about the choices you make and the risks you take. Here's how it goes down. Each round, players are either on offense or defense, indicated by sword or shield. While only one player gets to attack each round, both get to play cards, which means every move matters. In Legends of Runneterra, you alternate actions with your opponent. If they play a unit, you get to play something of your own, like a champion. Of course, the reverse could always happen too, so think carefully about every card you play. By the time it's your turn to act again, the state of the board could be completely different.
Many legs, not enough mustache.
Even when to attack is a critical decision. Do you play a unit first to increase your ranks and risk your opponent adding a powerful defender? Or attack with what you have now, forcing the fight, but reducing the impact? And sometimes, it all comes down to the spells. Cast a spell outside of combat or as a reaction to the changing battle. When your allies are set to clash with the enemy, you could bolster them with a quick buff. In response, your opponent may sneak in a shady move. While you consider a counter of your own, keep in mind, every action has a reaction.
No one belongs in chains!
As the magic maneuvers start to pile up, Oracle's Eye can help forecast the outcome before you fully commit. Once the chain of action-reaction is complete, the sequence goes off.
I've been hiding my light too long!
Victory or defeat, each battle brings experience and progress. Choose which region you explore first and unlock the cards that call to you, changing regions as often as you'd like. As you advance, you'll collect new allies, spells, and champions. More than enough for multiple decks. You'll also come across wild cards, which can be turned into any card you want. No guessing required. Alternatively, use the shards you've earned and the coins you've bought to acquire cards from the store. How you get cards is your choice. Once a week, the vault opens. Experiment with an abundance of new cards to discover your playstyle and craft your strategy. As your collection grows, so do the possibilities. And the journey is just beginning. Soon, you'll be able to embark on expeditions and draft a deck as you go. Overcome as many opponents as you can with an evolving set of cards. Or truly test your skill by taking your strategy into ranked and see where you stand among the best players in Runneterra. Where you go from here is up to you. From the champions to the combat, the regions to the reactions, every choice you make is a chance to be legendary.
Ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, please welcome Ruben Zoo and Riot Captain LX to the stage. Okay, all right. Can we do an explosion one? Thanks.
You got it.
That's right. I think you have to sort of, it was really awkward earlier. Anyway. Hi, guys. How are you doing?
Great, thanks.
Great. It's
Like a super casual chat just amongst friends. Not weird at all.
It's exciting to finally can say Legends of Runeterra.
Very true. I mean, obviously, you know, we've talked about League, we've talked about Wild Rift, but the mega Inferno bomb that did drop in the anniversary stream was, of course, Legends of Runeterra, which is the new collectible card game from Riot. So Legends of Runeterra is due for release in early next year, and you can pre-register for a chance to play it at playruneterra.com. In the meantime, Riot is also running an invite-only preview patch that will let you play the game right now. You can also find out more about the preview patch at playruneterra.com, so go check it out. So then, we got the straight flush. I'm going to go down a pun hole here for a minute about Legends of Runeterra, if you will, on the announcement stream. But today, we have two of a kind from the development team here to give us the rest of the details. Guys, put your cards on the table. It's a lot of card puns.
I was actually hoping that would be some card jokes. You know, we spent the last 2 years just creating card puns for us in the team, so I'm glad you're joining the party.
Oh, well, we're going to get on famously because it's going to get super awkward. It's fine. No, just kidding.
Like a Full House on Fire, kind of?
Yes. There we go. So anyway, card jokes aside, why don't you introduce yourself for the audience at home and just explain a little bit about what your kind of role is on Legends of Runeterra?
Sure. I'm Magnus Lehman. I'm an associate art director on the card realization team for Legends of Runeterra. My team and I visualize moments like champion level ups and all of the spells in our game. So I've been working at Riot actually for 10 years now at the LAX headquarters, but I was born and raised in Germany. And I'm really excited to be bringing Runeterra IP to a new genre, and particularly to be talking here about it in Europe.
And I'm Steve Rubin. I'm a game designer and live balance lead on Legends of Runeterra. Live balance is all about ensuring every champion's gameplay dream can be realized. So if you love Jinx and you want to end the game by landing a super mega death rocket, it's my job to make sure that you can. I also contribute on creating card content on our set design team, as well as working on our Expeditions gameplay mode, which hopefully we can talk about a little bit today. I'm a lot newer to Riot than Magnus, as I joined Riot specifically to work on this project. I'm a former professional CCG player who's turned game designer, so shout out to all my friends in the community. It's awesome to finally be able to talk about what we've been working on.
So before we're going to get like fully into the details, we need to do like a little bit of a recap. So can you guys give us sort of the elevator pitch of exactly what it is for anyone who kind of missed the stream out there?
Sure, I can handle that. So Legends of Runeterra is Riot's take on the CCG genre. It's a whole new free-to-play game set in a familiar but expanded universe where you face off in dynamic, back-and-forth combat full of opportunities to adapt and outplay. We try to take that really deep gameplay experience based on the League IP that so many people love, and we've built a whole new kind of progression system that gives you a bunch of rewards just from playing and totally ditches random packs.
Yeah, that actually means no buying packs ever.
Wow, that's nice. Yeah, yeah. I mean, how is this only new now? And is there anything that you want to add to Steve's summary there?
Steve's done a great job at covering the main points, I think. But from an art and IP perspective, people have been asking Riot for more ways to engage with the League of Legends universe for literally 10 years now. And so we've done all sorts of books and extensions, board games, but Legends of Runeterra is the biggest infusion of new content and ways to engage with the IP that we've produced so far. And if you're a Runeterra nerd like a lot of us, this is hopefully going to be completely overwhelming. So, in a good way.
Okay, so now if any of you watching, want to get more of an overview of the game, obviously go back and check out the announcement stream where the Legends of Runeterra team covered a lot of the kind of main features of the day. But we're going to go pretty deep today. So, are you kind of ready to get a little bit granular?
Yeah, I guess we're ready to shuffle along.
Oh my goodness! It's funny when someone just brainstormed all of these. It's quite funny. Anyway. Okay, so let's start by talking about the way that Legends of Runeterra expands on the League of Legends universe. So there are 24 champions from 6 regions, right? In the game at launch.
Yeah, so we actually have 318 cards in the game at launch, which is around 50 cards per region of Runeterra. Mm-hmm. And
sorry, just to interject, how did you go beyond champions, obviously, to build the Legends of Runeterra?
So there is a ton of content for players to explore, which includes some followers in our game, which is we distinguish our characters between followers and champions.
Yeah.
But talking about regions right now, one key decision we had to make was which regions we should feature. For our initial set, we have Demacia, Freljord, Ionia, Noxus, Shadow Isles, and then Piltover and Zon, which we're totally treating as one region because they're literally on top of each other. Mm-hmm. We spent a bunch of time considering what each region can and can't do. For example, Ionia is all about evasion and spell tricks, whereas Demacia is about raw power and durability. There are strengths and weaknesses to all the different regions, but the real magic of the game comes from combining 2 regions into one deck and building your own strategy.
When League of Legends first launched, the backstory and lore was kind of sparse. And anyone who's been keeping up with League over the last decade knows that we've done a ton of work defining the rest of Runeterra and giving champions and their regions really strong foundations. So for us, Legends of Runeterra is a really great opportunity to explore that in ways that we couldn't before. We chose these 6 regions for the first set because they have so much depth and diversity. There aren't any 50 champions in League of Legends for any individual region, of course, so that gave us a chance to dig through Runeterra's rich setting and unearth tons of interesting people and stories that are completely new to the IP.
It sounds like an awful lot of fun. Can you give us some examples of cards that introduce brand new content to Runeterra?
Absolutely. Let's talk about Freljord. Freljord is about hardy people who live among the ice, so the game design focuses on building slowly towards your inevitable victory. For example, one of the units we introduce is Skarmother Vrina. Skarmother Vrina is a follower, and as Steve said, we distinguish the characters in our game into champions and followers. She's a 6-cost card with 8 health points, and she has only 3 attack, but every time she survives damage, she will gain another 3 attack. She also has the Overwhelm keyword, which means that if she strikes against an enemy with low health, any leftover damage goes right through the enemy nexus. So now let's say she has been hit 2 times and has 9 attack points. Mm-hmm. If her opponent puts up a 1 health unit against Rina, she's going to wipe out that unit and do 8 damage onto the nexus.
Right, so basically you don't want to mess with Skarmother Vrina, that's pretty much what I'm taking away from that whole thing.
Absolutely, and she is only one of the new followers that we're introducing. It's incredibly exciting bringing new characters like Vrina into Runeterra.
And amazing, what about sort of the champions as well? Presumably it's quite hard to make characters like Vrina feel meaningful, but make champions feel like superheroes kind of on top of that? How did you manage that?
So we want our followers like Vrina to be exciting for players, but for our champions, we want them to be on another level with greater depth. The key to that is that all of our champions have a unique level-up mechanic. So let's take Jinx. Initially, when you play her, she's a pretty good card. 4 attack and 3 health at 4 mana cost. She also has the quick attack keyword, which means she gets strike priority while attacking, so she'll survive a lot of encounters. But since she's a champion, she also has another layer to her, which is her level up. If you empty your hand, you meet her level up condition, and she'll become an even more powerful card. She'll get more attack and health, draw you extra cards, and when you empty your hand for the first time each round, you get a Super Mega Death Rocket, which can be used for a ton of single target damage and some AoE as well.
Okay, that sounds a little bit crazy. Aren't you supposed to be, wait, isn't your job the balance lead?
I mean, it's our job to push the limits with our card designs, especially with our champions, and then we try to find the sweet spot through testing and tuning. Jinx is actually a great example of this. It's really important in Legends of Runeterra that champions are defining elements of the game. So they are, in fact, so to speak, game-breaking. We try and find a balance where champions can do awesome things while allowing your opponent space to interact with them.
Yeah, and Jinx players here will probably recognize that some of those ideas like quick attack, they feel thematically appropriate for characters like Jinx. In League, she's all about speed and carnage. And our level ups were a great way for us to align those card concepts to the champion themes. Lucian is a great example. His level up was the first one that really clicked with the team. It helped us to define where we want to head with these, trying to tell mini stories during our level up moments.
I mean, I was going to say, presumably there's kind of a lot of iteration when you're making these cards and sort of like working out how they level up, rather.
Absolutely. So much iteration. You know, Ashe, for example, when we first designed her level up, we got way too excited. We had arrows flying around, frozen birds circling through the air, carts spinning. I think we had an Arctic aurora borealis in the background.
Of course.
It was just way too much stuff. And so as a team, we sat down and asked ourselves, what is Ashe actually really all about? What do players want to see? And the answer was obviously her enchanted crystal arrow. So now the level up in the game is much more focused on the arrow. And actually, if you look really closely, you'll see that the tip of the arrow contains the crest of Freljord. So when Ashe takes you down, it's the three sisters who hit you right in the chest and freeze you to death.
Fantastic. I mean, was it hard to kind of maintain that sort of consistent quality with so many cards and champions?
You know, I think it was more that we got better at it as we made more content, and then we realized we wanted to redo some of the first things we made, because we knew how to make them even better. Teemo was like this. Was the first champion that we actually made in our game, and his whole thing is about spamming mushrooms into people's decks. And our original take on that was decent, but it really slowed down gameplay. And when we got towards the end of developing the first set, we knew we needed to go back and redo Teemo to bring him up to the standard of other champions. So I guess even in the development of Legends of Runeterra, Teemo is still a little devil causing us problems left and right.
So before we move on to gameplay, obviously we're here in the UK, and one of the biggest UK content creators is Skin Spotlights, who's done an incredible job capturing... Yeah. Capturing all the different special interactions in League of Legends over the years, where champions react different ways to specific champions. So is there any of that kind of thing in Legends of Runeterra, like specific?
Yeah, absolutely. And one more time, shout out to Skin Spotlight. We love that guy.
Woo!
Yeah. Hopefully we'll give you some more work, because, you know, a good example in our game might be Senna. She was announced on the anniversary stream, and she's in Legends of Runeterra as well, and so are Lucian and Thresh. As you would imagine, they have some interesting interactions.
I would hope so.
So, for instance, if you check out Lucian, he can level up when 4 of his allies die, or if your opponent kills Senna outright.
Yeah.
And while the level up for the 4 allies dying is pretty cool, when Senna dies and she gets ripped out of Lucian's hands in the level up moment, that feels really heartbreaking.
I mean, poor Senna, I thought it was bad enough being, in Thresh's Lantern, but apparently not. No. Anyway, so a quick reminder to everyone watching there, if you want a chance to play Legends of Runeterra, you can pre-register for access at playruneterra.com. And that's also one of the ways you can increase your chances of getting a preview patch invite. There's more information on that and other ways to get invites at playruneterra.com. So we've talked a bunch about how you expanded League of Legends universe for Legends of Runeterra, but let's really kind of dive into the gameplay now. So what is a game of Legends of Runeterra like? Tell us.
The way to describe it is that you play cards alternating with your opponent like you would in a true turn-based strategy game. Most actions can be reacted to, which adds a ton of counterplay strategy. This really comes through when you start building decks, because you're not just thinking about that one big combination that you need to pull off, you're also thinking about ways in which you can disrupt your opponents, allowing you the flexibility to outplay them.
Yeah, so during any given round, you might start by playing a unit to attack the opponent's nexus. And then they get the choice of playing the unit or a spell in order to potentially thwart your attack. At this point, as the attacker, you may cast spells to help you succeed as well. But again, the defender may also react after you play a spell, which lets you potentially react again, and so the cycle continues.
Okay, so what actually determines if you get to attack?
Yeah, great questions. You know, players alternate who gets to be the attacker during any given round.
Okay.
So this is shown on screen by one player having a shield and the other one having a sword. If you have the sword, which we call the attack token, it allows you to make an attack one time during that round.
Yeah, and one thing that's really interesting when you're getting used to the game is that deciding when to do something is really important, which even includes using your attack. You may have a powerful unit in your hand that you want to play, but this will give your opponents an opportunity to cause problems by doing something powerful in their own right. If you have a huge combat spell like Garen's Judgment, when you decide to cast it can determine the game's outcome.
Okay.
Timing can be really important, and there are all sorts of mind games and outplays that emerge from these moments.
Okay, and this sort of like constant back and forth was a theme, obviously, of the announcement stream too. Obviously, Jeff, you and Andrew, you have said that you kind of believe that CCGs are better when you kind of constantly interact with your opponent. Why is that so important?
It's important because players want that feeling of agency within any type of strategy game.
Right.
We want your decisions to really matter. And one of the reasons that I enjoy Legends of Runeterra so much is about after every loss I take, I really feel like there's something that I could have done differently in that game. In other CCGs, where players take alternating turns and play out several cards at once, there have been some issues where players can do too much unimpeded, even resulting in one-turn kills that don't give the opponent an opportunity to react with that. And we just never want Legends of Runeterra to feel like that.
So, okay, so you can alternate back and forth in a round, and then obviously you play through like a bunch of rounds. What else is going on?
Well, you're not only thinking about what to do in the current moment, but what may happen in the near future. For example, one cool feature in Legends of Runeterra is the way unused mana goes into a small pool.
Okay.
That can be used in subsequent rounds to cast spells, which really lets you set up and plan big turns.
Oh, that sounds good. I like that. So you've got a ton of cards and a lot of ways to try and avoid gameplay getting stale. There's still going to be sort of, you know, meta decks and meta cards, aren't there? I mean, you can't eliminate that completely.
Yeah, hopefully the feeling that you're talking about, where you come up against a meta deck that seems unbeatable, is not going to happen in our game, or at least it's not going to feel like there's absolutely nothing that you could have done about it. We're providing the tools for a wide range of strategies, which means some may be stronger or weaker in some situations. And when you do come up against a powerful deck, it's about learning how you can beat it, whether that be through deck building or some in-game decision making. We're actually striving for every single region combination of Runeterra to be viable.
Okay.
So if we've done our jobs well, then the tools are going to exist. You just need to find the right ones.
Okay, and if something is unbalanced, you're obviously just going to change it, right?
Yeah, we're actually going to be proactive about not letting things get out of hand,
Okay.
Especially if something's overly dominant, in a very similar way we try to be with League of Legends. That said, one of the worst experiences in card games is when a card gets over-nerfed and that kind of completely trashes a deck that you've built. So we're striving for some more player-focused changes. Specifically, we want to ensure that every champion is viable, and we will be proactive to protect that. We don't love filler cards, especially when they're combined alongside our awesome champions. So our intent is for nearly every card to have a role somewhere.
Okay, so you just got to figure out what it is. Cool. But before we change tack again, I just want to remind people watching that they can pre-register for a chance to play Legends of Runeterra at playruneterra.com. And that's also the place to learn about how to get into the preview patch. So, something we don't know a lot about is how you build your collection and make progress within the game. And obviously, one thing that Riot has said a lot in the past 24 hours is that there'll be no blind packs, no random packs via Legends of Runeterra. That's not how you get the cards. And obviously, you guys don't work on progression systems, but you know, can you fill us in on how that aspect of the game will work?
Sure. I think it's very important to distinguish two things about random packs. The first is that absolutely, we never make you buy random packs.
I love this.
We don't want to make a game where it costs 150 pounds or euros just to make a viable deck in order to compete. Screw that. But we do actually know that people like opening random packs.
Yes.
So we have this thing called the Vault. As you play each week, the Vault will level up. At the end of the week, the Vault will give you reward chests that scale based on how much you've played, and then it'll reset. Which this gives players a consistent way of obtaining cards while rewarding you just for playing.
So you can earn these just by playing, but you can't buy them. Right, okay, got it.
Totally, yeah. We basically want to give the player control of how they get their cards and build their collection. You know, you earn cards by playing. You have the weekly vaults, as Steve said, but you also have the region rewards. You choose which region you want to focus on, and you can change that at any time. And your progress goes toward unlocking cards in that region.
Okay.
Functionally, it will feel a bit like Summoner level in League of Legends. Play games, win, complete quests, and you will get XP. Now, those XP feed into both the vault rewards and into your region rewards. And when you hit certain thresholds on the region reward path, you get more cards for that region.
Yep, and then there's the other side, which is that if you like Legends of Runeterra enough to want to spend money in the game, we want you to be able to buy exactly what you want. So if you buy coins, which is our currency, you can spend those coins directly to buy any champion in the game.
Yeah, that means if a player thinks, hey, I want Jinx in my collection, go ahead, buy Jinx.
And if you want to buy specific cards that aren't champs, you can spend coins on wild cards, which can be redeemed for any card that shares a rarity with that wild card. You can also, of course, use shards, which is our currency that you earn just from playing, on buying cards too. The point is that there are ways to directly reach any card in the game for both free-to-play and paying players without relying on RNG.
Okay, I mean, obviously it sounds like really obvious, but that's actually a pretty new concept for CCGs, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it's totally new. We've made this game both for people who love CCGs, as well as people who are entirely new to the genre. Our idea is to remove cost altogether as a barrier to entry, because that's prevented players from getting into card games in the past. We want card games to be for everyone, and that means a combination of free-to-play rewards with full access to the cards you want. And yes, that means you can absolutely build multiple decks that will be good for both casual duels and the competitive meta just by playing Legends of Runeterra every week.
I suppose there's one thing that needs clarifying. I mean, does this mean that sort of, you know, people with deep enough pockets can just go around and be like, oh, hey, I want this, I want that, and just buy everything as soon as it launches?
Yeah, great question. We actually want to remove an initial advantage from players who are willing to buy everything. And we do that by capping the amount of wildcards players can buy per week when new content comes out. And so let me explain that for a second. The goal here is to limit the impact of paying for power. Okay. Meanwhile, ensuring that all players go through a metagame discovery period, which they can experiment. This allows free-to-play players to be on a much more level playing field whenever content is first released.
Okay, so just to recap, you can't buy randomized packs, but you can directly purchase the cards you want, but you've capped purchases to avoid people just buying an advantage effectively, and that's definitely a huge and exciting shift for CCGs. But before we move on, is there anything else you want to add on kind of progression and rewards? I feel like we're getting really deep in here. It's good.
I think we've covered most of the basics, but I would just like to add that as people who work on this game and as players, it has been really motivating to know this was the direction we were following. For instance, when I joined the team, this commitment to no packs was literally the first presentation that I was shown. And for me, that was a pivotal moment. Okay, now I know why we're making a card game. And that was all the motivation I needed to give it my all the past few years.
I mean, it makes sense, obviously, for Riot just to shake up the business model a little bit there, I think, you know. So obviously the preview patch is happening right now, and people can kind of matchmake with a random opponent and play what I guess you would call a normal game of Legends of Runeterra. But I know you have plans for kind of other modes, so what can you tell us about those?
Sure, so let's start with ranked, because that's the one thing that everyone will ask about. And the answer, luckily, is also short and sweet. Yes.
Okay, good, done. Right.
I'll elaborate, but there will be ranked coming with the full closed beta in early 2020. We're not going into specifics at this time, but look out for in-depth communication from our ranked developers in the future.
Okay, so we got ranked. Ranked is coming. What else?
One of the things that I've been working on a lot in Expeditions, which is a gameplay mode where you create a deck based on choices offered to you. Then you get match-made against people doing the same.
Okay.
The idea, which will be fairly familiar to CCG fans, is that you buy into this mode with either paid or earned currency, and then you try to put together a string of wins with a custom deck that you selected. The more wins you put together, the better your rewards at the end of the expedition will become. And before anyone asks, 100%, we are going to let you try out Expeditions in our November patch preview.
Okay, cool. I mean, that sounds pretty exciting. And can you tell us anything else? Is there anything else?
Well, right now, we're just confirming that the Expedition mode exists and that it will be playable in our next patch preview. I can say that although some of it will be familiar to CCG players, we are trying out some new things to shake up the way limited modes work. I don't want to overdo the hype, but we are excited to see what people think about our Expeditions mode.
Right. So, and Magnus, I guess you're not working on Expeditions, but how do you think it's shaping up? Come on, give us some feedback.
Personally, I think it's shaping up great. I love the dynamism of it, and it's a really fun way to play with cards that I maybe hadn't considered yet. I think the systems they've added give it another layer and help me discover new card combinations each time. And it's also a great way to see more of the beautiful card art that we created for the game. So everyone, look out for it in November's Expeditions preview patch.
So I believe we might have just a couple of little Q&A questions from you guys out there. So let's start with this one. Can we expect to see characters from LOI and League or other media, i.e. comics or Arcane?
Cool, so I'll take this one.
Okay.
So we've actually already done some of this content, which is awesome. So the first example is the Silverwing, which in our game is the Silverwing Vanguard, but in TFT it's a little legend known as the Silverwing, which is a little legend that you can get, which was inspired by the Silverwing Vanguard of Demacia in set 1 of Legends of Runeterra, which is awesome. And I think the more notable example is Tiana Crownguard, which is one of our followers that we designed to flesh out the world of Runeterra. And you actually see Tiana Crownguard in the Lux comic, if you guys have seen that. And that's a really awesome mix, and we're definitely looking to do more stuff like that in the future.
Cool. We do have one final question. Did you work with the world building team to figure out how the characters and creatures you were designing to fit into the world of Runeterra?
Yeah, absolutely, and that was a very exciting part. We have an internal Legends of Runeterra world building team, and we have a Riot-wide world building team, and they have been working very closely together, where we created some of the content, and that inspired the Riot-wide world building team, and then vice versa. So they're in deep collaboration, and that is one of the exciting things working at Riot, that we can just shape the world of Runeterra across different products.
It must have been pretty crazy being at Riot, like in recent days with all of these things going on. Because, I mean, you know, like everyone's excited about their projects, but everyone's got projects, right?
Yes.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we're really excited. We've been living like in stealth mode for a long time, so just as somebody who's been working on Legends of Runeterra for around 2 years now, it's just really excited that I can even, like Magnus said before, say Legends of Runeterra.
You can say the name. Oh my goodness.
I can tell my kids finally what I'm working on.
I know, finally. Oh, terrible. Yeah. Amazing. This is all good. This is all good. So we're almost at the end of our time together, but I suppose one kind of final question just before we go, and that's the kind of stuff what kind of stuff are you actually going to sell? I mean, are you going to do kind of cosmetic stuff, like playmats, like card foils, things like, you know, little legends that TFT has? You can do stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so far we confirmed playmats, guardians, that's our version of pets, and then we just said more. So here's the thing. Our team is working really hard creating things for players to fall in love with. And I can tell you, if you are the sort of player that likes personalizing your experience, Legends of Runeterra is going to be there for you. Now, the other thing on that topic is really, we in good Riot fashion want to hear from you players what you really want. Do you want to have more pets in the game, cute stuff, scary stuff? Just give us your feedback, and we'll make sure to pay attention.
Okay, got it. That's pretty straightforward. Next question. Mobile when?
We're definitely going mobile. Legends of Runeterra will be released on iOS and Android worldwide when we fully launch in 2020.
Okay, amazing. Well, I think that's pretty much all the time we have for these guys. So all that remains to say is a big thank you to Steve and Magnus for coming and spending the time to join us and tell us all about Legends of Runeterra. So any kind of last words of advice for people watching on the stream?
Yeah, you know, here's the thing. We are having so much fun bringing the world of Runeterra into new genre. And our big hope is just that players fall in love with the beautiful art and the engaging gameplay. So here's our promise to you guys. We want to make this the best card game it can be. So give us your feedback. We will make sure to pay attention. And thank you so much for giving us the time to talk to you tonight.
Oh, yeah, let's give it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I completely agree with Magnus. On behalf of the Legends of Runeterra team, we are so happy to finally share what we've been working on. And we're really excited to start building this game with you. Thank you, and we really hope you like what we have so far.
Oh, well, yeah, big round of applause again. These guys have been working so hard. Thank you again to Magnus and Steve for sharing your hearts on Legends of Runeterra and for sharing info on, well, all of your info well in spades. God, the punning is rife. I'm going to stop that. Okay, so all that remains really for me is to remind you once again that you can pre-register for a chance to play Legends of Runeterra at playruneterra.com. And this is also the website if you're interested in finding out more about the preview patch. Pre-registering increases your chance of getting invited to the preview patch, and so does watching Legends of Runeterra streams, among other things. So do check out the website to learn more about that, and we hope we'll see you in-game soon. Breathe. Right, what a show. Can you believe it? We've gone through so much stuff, and it's been so incredible to dig deep into the future of Riot Games with a few of the many talented, I have to say that right there, no, I'm just kidding, talented creators who brought all of these games to life. But there is more excitement still to come in the days and months ahead, and we're so very thankful to all of you who have been joining us here at the European celebration and watching at home. Genuinely, your support over the past 10 years has made all of this happen. So stay tuned. Let's have a big round of applause for you guys. I mean, really, without you what would we? Exactly. So stay tuned for the conclusion of our stream festivities with the Riot Report, where we'll review your favorite moments from our 10-year anniversary stream and lots more. And now, if it's okay with you, I would like to welcome back to the stage Nikki Taylor for one more song. Why not? Everybody have a good night. I'll see you in Bilgewater for a beer. Have a great night.
The night beckons while you dream. A life never lives in peace. As you stand upon the edge, woven by a single thread, and fate may fall down upon you while the devil is knocking right at your door. So all you restless, each night you hear the drums of war. Awaken, awaken, the voice begins to call you while you hunger. A taste of destiny you're searching for. Awaken, awaken, the fight is at your door. Take up the cause. Awaken, 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 awaken. As you stand upon the edge, hanging in the balance, and fate may fall Bye.